Oh my dears, it's David McGillivray here, comedy legend and horror icon, and I'm here with a show called Little Did You Know, the Chat Show, in which I talk to people I find interesting. I hope you agree. It's a very special episode of the show, as you can see, because suddenly we are free at last from the constraints of Zoom. This is our first face-to-face interview, and so accordingly we've got a very special guest indeed. 50 years ago he made his debut in Doctor Who. Fans will now know it can be nobody else but the very wonderful Richard Franklin.
Hi.
Oh, Richard.
Good. I didn't like the way you paused before saying a special guest.
Was that just maybe an affectation of mine? Why did you object to it?
Well, I wondered what you put in the pause.
Viewers can put in their own words there, perhaps.
I'm sure they will.
I hope so. Richard, I'm going to read you something here.
Oh, yes.
Yes. He's cool under fire, efficient, and both gives and carries out orders with a minimum of fuss. Who am I talking about?
Me. I knew at once. I knew at once, yes.
It's none other than Captain Mike Yates.
Yes, good. Well, that's a good start anyway.
You played him from 1971 to 1974, but then subsequently ever since in, you know, for example, charity specials and audio dramas. You've even written stories about Mike Yates.
Yes, I have indeed. And I can't remember what it's called now, actually. Operation Hate. Yes, Operation Hate. So, and it's a very good story, actually. John Nathan Turner said it's a ripping yarn. And that's high praise from JNT.
He's been, Mike Yates has been part of your life for most of your life. Are you all right with that?
Am I all right? And then there's another pause with that.
It's just,
yes. Well, actually, yes, I am. It took a bit of getting used to, because I'm never quite sure who I am, actually.
As with many actors?
Yes, I know. It's an occupational hazard.
Well, very briefly, Richard, let's remind everyone that you studied at RADA. You were then in episodic TV. We can mention titles such as Dixon of Dock Green, The Saint, in fact, 2 episodes of which, The Fiction Makers, are now on Talking Pictures TV. Then there was, yes, it's true, then there were Crossroads and much later Emmerdale. But we're going to talk, if it's all right with you, Richard, about Doctor Who for the first part of this show.
I'm delighted to talk about Doctor Who. Doctor Who is a very important part of my life. I didn't realise it was going to be, but it has become so.
I read you a description of the character just a few moments ago. Was that how the part was sold to you when you went to the audition? Calm, cool, efficient. Yes. No fuss. Yes.
No, I don't think it was, actually. It was sold to me as love interest. For Katie Manning. And I was very happy with that. I'm not going to comment on whether I still look the same as I did then. I think I do, actually. And I don't think I have changed a lot, actually.
And I agree. You are still instantly recognisable. You've got a badge on your jacket there, haven't we? Haven't you? Look.
Haven't we? Yes, I've got it. I'm very proud of that. No, it is an honour, actually, to have been on Doctor Who. It really is. I mean, how many people have been on a series which has lasted all this time? I mean, it is quite remarkable. I can't quite think why, but it has. It has. I mean, people, I think, are fascinated by space. I can remember seeing the very first episode, and which was amazing, really. And I know that the thought in my mind was, what's out there? What is in space? You know, we wanted to know. Man hadn't landed on the moon then. He hadn't walked on the moon, and now he has, and we know what's out there.
So
nothing.
You saw, at the moment, that's what it looks like. You saw the first episode of Doctor Who with William Hartnell, as did I. Why did you think it was so amazing?
Well, because of the sense of exploration. I mean, it was quite extraordinary to think that you could control a man and bring him back. And of course, it wasn't absolutely certain that you were going to bring him back in those days. And I think, I mean, the bravery, the courage of the man isn't emphasized enough, I don't think, actually. It was amazing, amazing. And it still is amazing. I mean, we're now getting onto Mars.
Correct. This very year, yes.
Yes, this very year, onto Mars.
Mike Yates worked for UNIT UNIT. Can you remind some of our younger viewers of what UNIT did?
Well, yes, it stands, of course, for the United Nations Intelligence, and I do emphasize that, Intelligence Task Force.
And what did they do?
Save the world, basically.
They did. That's what I wanted you to say.
Oh.
They were quite important in that sense.
Well, they were. They were. I mean, you know, if ever you had a problem, you would go to UNIT. And UNIT is like the police box and one or two other iconic things. And the sonic screwdriver. I mean, all these things are integral to Doctor Who, and I'm very pleased that the current writers haven't forgotten this.
Absolutely. I have here in my hand a UNIT badge. Have you ever seen anything like this, Richard?
Shove it in my pocket. Yes, I have. Actually, I used to have a pair of cufflinks, and I'll hold it up for you, then you can see it.
Yeah. That is a present to you, Richard, from our cameraman Stephen.
Oh, well, that's very nice of your cameraman Stephen. Is he the pretty boy standing right behind the camera there?
He's immensely pretty. I'm glad you clocked that, Richard.
Yes, well, of course.
It's often commented on, often on toilet walls, I believe.
Yes.
Richard...
why is he laughing?
Because he knows I'm telling the truth.
Absolutely.
Richard, what surprised you most about how the character of Mike Yates developed over the years?
Well, he was allowed, you see, in the, was it the Planet of the Spiders? He was allowed, actually, to appear to be a bad man. Actually, I was doing brave undercover work. Note that. Have you got it on camera?
I'm afraid it's all being recorded, Richard.
Yes. Oh, good. Oh, dear. You never told me that.
It's not just fun for us.
Yes. Well, I thought it was fun for you.
It's fun as well.
Yes.
I can't deny that.
Yeah. But you know, David and I go back a long way, because David, you and I were in a play called Over Here, and it was all about people who were a little bit deaf.
It's true.
And it was rather wonderful, actually. And David learnt a lot of Braille, a lot of sign language.
Sign language, yes. It's the only reason I got the part, because I'd studied British Sign Language. But that was enormous fun. We are going to talk about that in the second part of the show, in fact.
Oh, right.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Then I'll shut my mouth.
No. That subject is going to come up again. I can promise.
I
Can promise you.
Will you tell me what I can say?
I want to talk to you, Richard, about conventions. You do go to them, don't you? As
I go
Mike Yates.
whenever I am asked. I must say that this COVID business is a perfect nuisance, because it has curtailed a lot of our activities, and that is not only, in fact, not primarily an economic disaster. It's also a personal disaster, because it's changed. The conventions have changed dramatically. They used to be about meeting the stars. It isn't now. It's a question of meeting friends.
Have you been to conventions all over the world?
Yes, I have. Australia, New Zealand. No, not New Zealand, actually.
But America?
I'm up for New Zealand, definitely.
I hope you'll get to go there. Can you tell us about the average?
Oh yes, I think I've been to New Zealand.
How could you have forgotten?
Well, no. The reason. No, I don't think I have. No, I don't think I have been.
One or the other. Please make up your mind. Richard, what is the average convention experience for you? How would you describe it?
Very good fun.
Why?
Very good fun.
Why?
Because you are seeing all your old friends.
Fans?
Fans who've become friends.
Ah.
Why is your cameraman looking the other way?
I don't know. I'm going to tell him off right now. Stephen, could you please concentrate? I think he's worried about the bird song, but I think it's charming.
The bird song?
Yes.
Are you worried about the bird song? No, he says he's not. He's just, it's a different sort of bird. I think he was
Richard,
spotting.
I've got to bring you back to the subject in hand.
Oh, sorry.
When you're at a convention, do you find that some of your fans know more about Mike Yates than you do?
Always. Yeah. I mean, I am the last person, if you want to ask detail about the programme, and that isn't because I don't like it or something. It's just the fans are so much more knowledgeable. I mean, they really are knowledgeable.
Well, I can tell you, Richard, I don't know whether you know this, but you can go to a particular site online and Mike Yates' entire life history is there, almost from his birth.
Oh, really?
They've patched it together from so many different sources, you know. From now you've got me going with a let's do that and get it out of the way. They've used, you know, the stories, the TV episodes, the audio dramas. They've patched it all together, and this is why they know so much. Yes. Are you interested to hear about what a fascinating character Mike Yates is?
Well, I always knew it, but I would like to hear it said on air.
Well, it's the reason he has lasted for so long is that people are so interested in this man, and I want to know from you why you think that is. It can't just be about his efficiency.
No, you want a serious answer for this?
Oh, go on then.
Yes, go on. Don't make me laugh. Okay, a serious answer to the question, which I've now forgotten.
Why is Mike Yates so interesting to so many generations of people?
Well, I think all sorts of reasons. He's very much in tune with the correctly modern attitude towards the environment, towards sort of modern issues, global warming and all the rest of it. I mean, I think we always were, we always had an inclination to be progressive, and I think it is that gentle progressivism that has actually kept Doctor Who alive, let alone myself. We have not evaded sort of public issues, which I think it does add a dimension to the character. And as far as Mike Yates is concerned, I personally am very interested in these sort of issues. As you probably know, I have stood for Parliament, and perhaps you want to talk about this later.
Without a doubt, Richard. I'm certainly not going to ignore your political career.
Right. Well, which is
but right now, I want to spring another surprise on you just before, alas, we have to take a break. I'm going to show you this bit of paper here. Now, what do you make of that?
Who is it?
It's you.
Right. Well, I actually was labelled on the original version a unit soldier. It's not a unit soldier, it is Captain Mike Yates. And frankly, I am disappointed.
Oh.
I'm disappointed with the likeness.
Why?
Well, it doesn't look like me.
I'm very surprised to hear you say that, Richard. I'm still going to bring this out because the aforementioned cameraman, Stephen, this is, yes. But we've got the real thing here because this is part of his collection.
That's right. That's right. Well, actually, does he look better? The brig looks like the brig. Benton doesn't look anything like Brenton. And I don't think I look like me.
Richard, let the viewers decide. Can you hold that up for our camera over there?
Yes.
What do you think? Because I think we're in disagreement here. I think it's a pretty good likeness.
Well, far be it from me. I mean, I'm delighted to have had a model made of me. I feel I've arrived. I
was going to ask you about that, Richard. What's it like having a model made of you? I'd love it myself.
It's wonderful.
Ah, good.
Yes, and I like it because I'm vain and empty-headed and stupid and all the things that you said I wasn't.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, well, no, I mean,
Richard.
Of course, it's nice to. It's a great compliment. It's just that. Well, I don't know. It's beginning to look more like me now.
We're going to leave Richard drooling over his dolly because, alas, we have to take just the slightest break. We like to remind ourselves of what our friends Peccadillo Pictures are up to, so please have a look at this trailer. It's for a film from Iceland. How about that for a novelty? And it's called A White, White Day. Please join us again in a couple of minutes.
Afi, nennir að segja sögu?
Þetta fallega sögu, eða ljóta. Veistu hver þú ert? Hver ég er? Faðir. Afi. Löggan. Ekkill.
Það tókst loks að safna kjarki til þess að bakka allir dótinu hennar saman. Og það í þessum kassa.
Það eru haldið fram í Ingeborg. Akkur þetta spyrja því? Ég hafa þetta tilfinningunni að hún að fela eitthvað. Að það var eitthvað sem hún sagði mér ekki.
Tilbúin?
Já.
Ég heiti Bjössi öskraðum. Ætlaði að drepa hann.
Nei, auðvitað ekki.
Ertu að Ingimundur? Er í mér. Ég held að þú sett of harður við sjálfa þig, Ingimundur. Þegar við elskum einhver af öllu hjarta, þá viljum við gera allt sem í okkar valdi stendur til að særa ekki frá mannesku.
Hvernig myndirðu lýsa fullkomnum degi?
That's a film called A White, White Day. It's from Peccadillo Pictures. It's from Iceland. It looks absolutely fascinating. And in that break, Richard and I were talking about Iceland. Why was that, Richard?
Well, you said it was white and beautiful. It wasn't white at all when we were there. Global warming had warmed it all up.
Why were you there?
I was making a film. I can't remember the name of the film. That's awful.
I should have done the research, but what was your experience like? I'd love to go to Iceland.
It's a lovely indie company. They were so good. Ellie was the name of the leading character, and she was more interested in her mobile phone than in all the extraordinary things that are happening in Iceland. I mean, Hekla has just blown up, and I mean that's the big volcano quite near Reykjavik.
Eyjafjallajökull.
I beg your pardon?
That's the name
no
of
need to be rude to me.
That's the name of the volcano that erupted.
Oh, really?
It is. I'll never forget that name.
I thought you were going to be sick or something.
I can imagine why you thought that, but
yes.
that's its name. Well, I'm going to look up the name of this film you made.
Well, you do, because it's going to be released very shortly.
Oh, how wonderful.
I think you'll probably have to catch it on in the first instance, you'll have to catch it on a festival of some kind.
Of course.
I think it's a very good idea, and it was beautifully shot. And we haven't had the full viewing yet, but they are very pleased in spite of the fact that all the snow disappeared. And it was supposed to be lovely white background, and it looked a bit like the grass here, actually.
You'd think at least you could rely on Iceland for
exactly.
snow.
Exactly.
Richard, I want to talk about lots of other things, because theatre, I have a feeling, is very important to you.
Yes, it is.
You've been an actor, a writer, and a director for the stage. So is it fair to say that it is, in fact, your favourite medium?
Oh, yes, definitely. Without any question. I think most actors would say the same thing. It's playing with an audience. If you can control an audience, you've done well.
Well, we go way, way back. In fact, we met on a play. I think you may have briefly alluded to it earlier. It was called Over Here,
Yes.
And believe it or not, it was in 1995.
Really? Gosh,
Yes.
I can't remember that far back.
It's true.
Conveniently.
And because of that, we kept in touch.
Yes.
And it was only a matter of a couple of years later that you involved me in another play which you had written and directed. And this was a play promoting the Referendum Party. So this is this is where we have to discuss your political career.
Right. Well, I do remember that it had rather a starry cast, actually.
It certainly did. Can you remember some other people who were in it?
Yeah, Chris somebody.
Well,
he's always popping up on television.
He subsequently did quite well for himself, yes.
He did.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Stephen, who is, I can't remember his name either.
No, I can't.
But he's in that, he was in that programme that's set in the South Seas, and there's always a murder every week.
That's right, a different murder every week.
Chris with a K.
Okay, so it's Chris Marshall. Chris
Marshall,
with
yes,
a K.
of course.
So this was his first part
Yeah.
in your play.
Really?
Straight from drama school. And look at him now.
Well, absolutely.
And
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's wiped the dust off his feet.
He certainly has done rather well for himself. Who else?
Yes, he has.
Who else was in it, Richard?
Nicholas Courtney.
Nicholas Courtney.
Audrey Laybourne.
Yes.
Who was one of the roly-polies.
She was in her
Yeah.
day, yes. And do we have to remind viewers that Nicholas Courtney played Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart in Doctor Who?
And Chris Marshall was apparently rumoured to be up for Doctor Who many years later for the main role.
Do you remember that?
The rumour.
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Do you remember that, Richard?
No.
He was, yes.
No, I don't remember. I don't remember that.
We're going to talk about politics any minute now, Richard. But it's just reminded me. Were you aware of the controversy of Doctor Who? You know, the fact that people like Mary Whitehouse were complaining about it.
Yes, absolutely. And the police complained as well. Because,
Why?
In one of the early episodes, and you'll probably remind me which one, the Doctor and Katie are sitting in the back of a police car, having been rescued, and they come to a fork in the road, and the police driver, takes the left-hand fork, which is significant because he turns round and peels his face off, and the police were very worried that it was going to turn people off.
Is that Terror of the Autons? I think it's...
Our cameraman claims that this is Terror of the Autons.
Yes.
If he's got it wrong, which is extremely unlikely, please write in. A scary programme. Possibly the scariest moment were the mannequins coming to life.
Yes, absolutely.
How many times have you been asked about them?
And that awful sofa thing.
The sofa thing, which we were talking... Stephen and I were talking about this last night. This is what he remembers as a child.
Yes, well, it was horrible, actually.
The daffodils.
Daffodils, yes.
Mm-hmm. The daffodils that eat your face.
Yes.
And
the sofa that envelops you.
Did you know that
bad intent?
Did you know that the mannequins were shot in Ealing, where I now live?
Oh, really?
True. A lot of Doctor Who was filmed around there.
Is the fame of Doctor Who mainly because you live round there? I think it might be. I think it might be, actually.
I have my suspicions, Richard, but they have not been confirmed. So we were in a play called Over Here, and then I was in your play about the Referendum Party. Can you
Do you
just
remember when the chair collapsed under me?
Okay, so this is a reference to Over Here. It was a very shoddily made set, and yes, sure enough, one night Richard was sitting there and his seat collapsed.
with emotion.
Yeah. But do you remember what you said? You had to improvise your way out of it.
Oh no, what did I say? Something clever.
Well, you did refer to, again, shoddily made furniture, I remember.
That was a delight. I'm sure that was a great pleasure.
We were killing ourselves in the wings, I can tell you. So now, tell us, for those of us who've forgotten, what was the Referendum Party? At the time, it was extremely important.
The Referendum Party was amazing. It was really to provide the full facts about Europe, so that people could have an informed opinion which way to vote, if a vote was if it ever came to a vote, actually. That was period. That was the Referendum Party. I think now a lot of people have realised, although it sounds rather wonderful to be independent and free of the restrictions of Europe and so on, although it sounds rather good, I personally think that really we need to be in Europe, myself, because which is a change of view in a way.
Which way did you vote in the referendum?
In the referendum, I voted for leaving Europe.
Yes.
But I don't think that is the trend. I think the trend now, and particularly since COVID, is we've got to have sufficiently large blocks in the world in order to oppose the bad influence of the corporations.
Your opinion has changed in the 3 years since we voted?
Yes, it has. Mind you, I personally feel that the reason why I voted for leaving Europe was because I thought we would have a Prime Minister who would go in and say, "You're corrupt, reform yourselves, and then I'll consider again whether we should leave Europe." In other words, we really needed a Margaret Thatcher, and we didn't get a Margaret Thatcher. We got a very nice woman, I believe, Theresa May, who tried to deal with, frankly, with crooks. And she tried to...
In the EU?
In the EU. And she tried to deal with them with charm and being a decent person. And I don't think that's the way you deal with crooks.
I didn't know, Richard, that you stood for another party as well. I want to know more about it. It's more recent. It was called the Silent Majority Party.
Yes, that's right.
Can you tell us more about it?
Well, really, it was a sort of common sense party.
That's what we like to hear.
In a way. It's what people are thinking. I mean, the people have not been allowed their voice, to be quite honest. And I think that will change with...
But they were allowed their voice in the referendum?
Yes, that is true, but they were allowed a voice, but nothing was done about it. Nothing ever is done about it.
What became of the Silent Majority Party?
Well, that was a last-minute fling for appeal for common sense, really.
How many were in the Silent Majority Party?
Me and a dog.
Do you remember how many votes you got?
No, and don't bother to remind
Oh,
me.
I was just going to tell you.
Oh, well, tell me. Go
All
on,
right.
then. Embarrass me.
78.
Oh, really? But it was
As
so
many as
sensible.
that.
Yes. Well, I knew them all personally, actually. Yeah. No, I mean, that is the lovely thing about British politics. Long may Screaming Lord Such...
Oh, we miss him.
And he was actually a very intelligent man.
He was. Did you know him?
I met him, yes, on one of my escapades into politics.
Well, can we remind everybody that the Monster Raving Loony Party were introducing things in the 1960s that have now all become law.
Yes, that's very interesting.
He was ahead of his time.
Yeah, yes. Well, the prophet in his own land and all the rest of it. Yeah.
How
actually,
true.
you must read my book.
Tell us the title of your book, Richard.
It's called Parting Curtains.
Parting Curtains, yes.
And it does actually, I think it would make a very good film. I think it would make a better film than a book.
Is it on Amazon?
No, it's at the present moment I'm sending it round to publishers.
Oh, I see. So there's no possibility of us reading it at the moment.
No, but I don't. I think
can you give us
to Amazon.
Can you give us the pitch, Richard? Why should we buy it when it comes out?
Because it's really the story of a little evacuee boy, which was me. I was evacuated, I was moved 10 times before I was 16.
What part of the country?
Into the Cotswolds.
Yes.
Actually, it wasn't the Cotswolds, it was the Chilterns.
Oh,
sorry, of geography.
I'm glad we clarified that.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's a very frank book. I think Doctor Who fans will find it interesting.
Why?
Because they will discover things about me which they haven't normally publicised.
So it's largely autobiographical.
Well, it didn't set out to be autobiographical because I've always thought I haven't really got anything to write about. There's nothing terribly special about my life.
Oh, pish.
Oh.
As we're establishing, there's a lot.
Yes.
Can I talk about something else you wrote,
yes.
Richard? And this is of particular interest to me. It was an...
It would make a very good film.
And it would make a good film as well. We're looking forward to it. But I now want to talk about an audio drama you did. It's called In Conversation with an Acid Bath Murderer. And I want to know why you wrote that.
I didn't write it.
Oh, have I got it wrong?
I didn't write it. It was done by Southern Television, and they're always showing it. And they've never paid me for it, actually.
But
I think I must have made a bit of a slip with the initial contract. Because,
oh dear. Well, it's never too late, but it's about the murderer John George Hay.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And
I was interviewed because my aunt was a friend of John George Hay.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes.
So she used to tell you about him. How was she involved with him?
Well, she was a nice, very nice lady living in retirement in Sonning on Thames.
Lovely.
And she and her friend used to come up to London once a month and have their hair done in Harrods, and as you do. And bless her heart, she was just typical of Haig's victim because she looked wealthy. In point of fact, she would love to have been wealthier. She's looking at all around.
Try not to take any notice of him, Richard.
And she and her friend wore fur coats that they'd used before they were not disallowed, you know, they looked rich.
So she had a narrow escape.
Well, very narrow escape, because I mean, he'd already proposed the idea of going down to her to see his factory in Crawley, and he'd already made the proposition.
And he ended up in Madame Tussauds because he was eventually hanged for these murders.
Yes, and actually the reason why her invitation was never fulfilled was because the unfortunate Mrs. Durand Deacon, of victim fame, actually she was a typical, absolutely typical. He picked these women who wanted to be richer, and Mrs. Durand Deacon's handbag was not snakeskin from Harrods or somewhere. It was plastic, and it didn't dissolve in the acid, and it floated to the top.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Richard, I last saw you, I reckon it was about 10 years ago. You were understudying The Woman in Black, a very long-running play here in London at the Fortune Theatre.
Yes.
Oh, I nearly dropped my phone there. It's all to do with the excitement of talking about the Woman in Black, which is a terrific play. But what occurred to me, Richard, was that the wheel was kind of turning full circle, because here you were. I went to see you when you went on for the actor you were understudying, but here you were understudying again at 10 years ago. Did you get that impression that you were going back to the beginning of your career?
Well, sort of. In my contract, I had a number of performances written in, but my agent at the time was very ill, and she was much iller than she actually admitted, and I don't think the opportunity was sufficiently exploited, really. Because I had hoped that a lot of people would come and see the show when I was actually on. But it was a lovely part, and I was very happy to play it, and I was very happy there, actually.
And it was a magnificent performance, Richard. I'm not buttering you up, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
It's true.
But it was a lovely part to play. I always felt that there was much more that could have been made of the part.
Something tells me that when we go back to normal, and we're very close to it now, because only yesterday gyms and hairdressers and non-essential shops reopened, so we can now think in terms of theatres reopening again. Something tells me you wouldn't mind getting back on stage again.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I would love to. I'm not angling for a lead or anything like that. It's too much like hard work, too much learning to do. But some little gem I would love.
I'm absolutely delighted to hear that, Richard. It's rather sad we have to end it here, but only here on YouTube. Patreon subscribers, and a link will appear now as if by magic to remind you, if you're not a subscriber, you can be so easily. But we're going to end here and pick this up on Patreon, and what I'm going to do is put to you, as I mentioned earlier, a number of questions that have been sent in by fans. Would you be up for that?
Oh yes, most definitely, and I was looking forward to that actually.
Oh good, I'm so pleased to hear it. Richard, it's been absolutely delightful. Thank you so much for joining us on what has been a beautiful day here in London.
Well, it's been a joy to see you again, actually. So on a purely personal level, it's lovely.
I'm gulping back the emotion, lovies. Please join me again next week when my guest will be Sue Tilley. You might know the name, but you'll certainly know what she did. She was Lucian Freud's muse. Yes, she is benefits supervisor sleeping. And she was in the painting that was at one time the most expensive in the world. Please join me then. But for now, from me and my very special guest, Richard Franklin, it's bye-bye.